Minecraft, the best-selling video game of all time, released 16 years ago on the 17th of May 2009. The game has a total of 51 trophies including the platinum. Today I tasked myself with getting the platinum trophy, and this is how it went. Minecraft has an abundance of trophies to start with, and these are just some of the ones I got at the start. I then decided, for some reason, obviously within Minecraft, you just have to go down to 2 hearts in a fight when you have hardly anything. Great start. I then was randomly just travelling around the world and found this lava temple. As I opened it up, I saw some gold supplies, which I'll never say no to, so I took those. I then turned around and there was this massive village, which obviously the best thing to do when you find a village is loot absolutely everything from them. After looting the whole base, I decided to create better tools, which netted me another trophy. Some of the items that I picked up in the village allowed me to create a bookshelf, so I did that, which netted me another trophy. I then, by some miracle, as I was randomly walking along, stumbled across a horse, and I had an apple, so I tamed that.
We just become best friends? Yep!
Got the trophy for getting a horse. In the meantime, I decided to create a little base, and I went and explored and put some stuff in a chest for safekeeping. I decided at this point to create a bed, so I had the materials to do it. So I went ahead and made the bed, and then I placed that down so that I could use it. I then decided it was best, because I had the material, to make a plant pot and place that. I decided to put this as like decor in my house, so I made a little area for it. I put a block down and then placed it on top of that, and up popped the trophy. Because I had the material for this in the village, I realised that I could get a hay bale and essentially turn that into wheat and turn it into bread, so that's what I decided to do. I used the wheat that I had left over from the hay bale to make the cows in the village, which netted me another trophy. I managed to collect some iron ingots, so I went and made shears and then used this on the sheep, which got me another trophy. At this point, there was another trophy that I hadn't obtained yet, which was quite easy, which was to place down a sign, so I went ahead and did that on the front of my house. At this point, I decided now was a good time to cook a fish to get that trophy. I actually went out and caught a fish and then realised I already had one in this furnace cooking from earlier on, so I just picked that up and got the trophy. I realised that I'm probably going to need a lot of resources from mining, so at this point I decided to dig into a mine that I had before and start my mining adventure.
A few moments later.
After mining for a considerable amount of time, I managed to stumble across this underground railway system, which we know can contain a lot of good chests with some good items in them. At the same time, what I also decided to utilise at this moment was the rail tracks from these underground areas, because there's a trophy to travel in the same direction for a certain amount of blocks, and those rail tracks will save me a lot of time from having to create them myself. So here's a little speed run of me getting to the chests and opening those, and obviously getting the rail tracks as I go along.
A few moments later.
After a long time mining, I managed to get quite a lot of resources, that being iron, rails, and different things from the chest that you saw in the speed run. Essentially what I decided to do at this point was to smelt up all the iron that I had available to me so that I could get a few trophies and start building the rail track railway for the trophy to travel in one direction a certain amount of blocks. So I used all my rails possible to make a rail track in one direction. I don't think I've got enough at this current time to actually do this, so I'll have to come back later on. But next up we start work on obtaining every type of wall, which there's 16 in the game to obtain, so we begin that. I actually came back to the house at this point and acquired the iron from the furnace, which netted me another achievement for smelting iron. One trophy that I managed to obtain randomly was actually killing a creeper with a bow and arrow. I randomly found one and just decided to shoot it with my bow and didn't actually think it was an achievement, but then it randomly popped, so we got that one as well. Next, I decided to make this structure which will house the 16 types of wool. I placed down all white wool, or as much as I had, and then basically turned each one of those into the wool that I had available. But this will be a trophy that we work on throughout the game, because there is going to be a case of getting cactus to make green wool, and then obviously the other ones are quite easily obtainable by using flowers in the game. At this point, I wanted to make some serious progress on the achievement to kill the Ender Dragon. So at that point, basically, I'm going to need Ender Eyes, which means I need to go to the Nether. So I made this portal structure with the amount of obsidian I had. What I then decided I need to do was essentially get more diamonds, because I'd need to mine the rest of the obsidian to build the portal. So I went ahead down the mine and I collected as much diamond as possible so I could make a pickaxe to then gather the obsidian to finish the portal. Once I had enough diamond to create the pickaxe, I went and got the obsidian and then added it to the rest of the portal. I then had to light the portal with a flint and steel, which gave me the trophy to go to the Nether. Once I spawned into the Nether, my main priority was to find a Nether fortress so that we could get blazes to then obtain blaze rods. I spent some time digging around the Nether and managed to find the fortress, and then our main priority then, like I said, was to get the blazes so we could make the blaze powder. What we need to do is get the blaze powder and then get ender pearls, which then merging them together would make an ender eye, which would then tell us where the dragon portal was. After I'd collected enough blaze rods, I decided to create the ender eyes. I then used this ender eye to navigate where the end portal was. What I then did was dug down to where the eye was, and then I managed to find the portal. We did have a bit of a problem though, because as soon as I found the portal, I realised it was broken.
Houston, we have a problem.
After doing a bit of research, I realised that there's actually multiple end portals in the world. So I think the best thing for me to do is to come back to this later on in the video and see if I can find the end portal then. My choice now was to try and basically get as many trophies as possible up until I need to go to the end. So what I did was I built a dispenser so that then I could get the trophy for that. The next thing I decided to do, because I realised I had the resources, was to actually brew a potion. So I made a brewing stand, brewed the potion, and got the trophy. The next thing I realised I could actually build was an enchantment table. I didn't think I had the resources to do this, but looking through the chests, I actually did. So I went ahead and built that, got the trophy for getting the enchantment table. The next thing I decided to go for was a trophy that would take some time. Now this one, you have to essentially fill a whole single chest full of cobblestone. That amounts to 1,728 pieces. So I went through, down into my mine, got a pickaxe, and mined as much cobblestone as I possibly could until I filled the chest with the amount that I needed.
A few moments later.
I then got the trophy. This did take me like 30 odd minutes to do. It's quite a rewarding trophy once you've got it, because you spent half an hour mining cobblestone for it. The next trophy on my list to obtain was to stop starvation eating rotten flesh. So what I decided to do was essentially run around this massive hole that I'd made from getting the cobblestone until I literally had no health left. When you get down to a certain amount of hunger bars, you then have to walk around. So I went under a block and literally just mashed the button to jump until I ran out of stamina, and then ate the rotten flesh to get the trophy. It was as simple as that. I then decided, basically, because I had all the cobblestone from mining it for the trophy, I decided to use that cobblestone to basically finish off the route for the rail tracks that I need. I still don't actually have the resources to make the amount of rails that I need, but I thought if I at least calculate how far it needs to be, then that's at least some progress, so I went ahead and did that. It had also been quite a long time since I'd visited the whole wool situation, because obviously we need to get the trophy to get the 16 different colours of wool. Now I believe at this point I only had a few colours left to get, so I was basically calculating which ones they were. Most of it I've calculated I need the green for, so what I did was I basically went and got the one that I could, which was light grey, by adding black ink with white ink to make light grey, and then adding that onto wool and then having that, so I kind of just made a tiny bit of progress so far on that one. At this point, I also realised I had enough resources to make the jukebox, and I also had a disc in my chest, which I must have got on my travels, to essentially get the trophy for playing a music disc in a record player. So I basically went ahead and got that one, and that's another trophy that we've got. The next thing I tried to do was essentially find cactus, so I could get the rest of the wool that I needed, because we need the green wool. Now what I did was I essentially travelled in one direction as far as I possibly could until I found cactus, and as you can see from the clip, it was 20,000 blocks away. The annoying thing is, on my travels back, I actually died, so I decided the best thing for me to do would be to come back another day and try and do it. I did that, I went the opposite direction, and I realised it was only actually 2,000 away in the other direction. So I essentially collected up as much cactus as I possibly could, turned it into green dye, and created the walls that I needed to then create that trophy. So now I decided to make a cake because that was also a trophy. I had the resources to be able to do it, so I went ahead, got all the resources I needed for it, made the cake, got the trophy. Simple as that. I won't bore you with this part, I'll do a little speed run for it, but essentially I went mining, went back into the underground cave as well where the rail tracks were, and picked up as many of those as possible. I also used the iron that I'd collected to basically make as many iron rails as possible so we could finish that part of the rail track. The next thing to do is the gold section of it, and then we pretty much have the trophy. So moving on from that part, I essentially went into the nether and mined as many golden nuggets as possible. I think in the end I got about 4 stacks of 64. I turned them all into gold and used basically the redstone that I had to make as many rail tracks that were gold powered as possible, and then essentially put them down on the tracks. I really don't have enough at the moment. I think I need like 50 more tracks, and then we've pretty much got this trophy. What I might end up doing is probably doing it off camera and then just riding down this once we've got it, because it's pretty self-explanatory how you get it now. When I was out on my travels, I also noticed that I had some fish in my inventory and I saw a jungle biome, so I went back to it in the hopes of trying to find an ocelot so that I could tame it for the trophy. I did manage to find one, tame it, and then we got the trophy for it. The next trophy on my list at this point was to cure a zombie villager. Now I thought this might be quite easy because my base is in a village and I thought they might just spawn in there. But if you haven't already noticed, I've been playing a lot of this game on peaceful mode. So I changed the mode to easy. We had to craft a weakness potion, or a splash potion of weakness to be precise, so we can throw it at the zombie. And then a golden apple needs to be fed to the zombie for us to get it. I was basically just roaming the world, randomly found one and had the stuff on me to do it. So I basically used those things on it and the trophy popped. The next thing I decided to do was the trophy to return to sender, which basically means you need to fire a ghast's fireball back at it to get a ghast tier. Now I managed to actually get this one quite easily because I had a lot of ghasts in the nether, but yeah, the trophy popped straight away without any issues. For the next trophy, I needed to get carrots so that I could make a carrot on a stick, because we're going to try and go for the one where you lead a pig into taking full damage. Essentially you need to use a carrot on a stick on a pig to then ride it into a hole for it to take full damage. I didn't have any carrots on me, so I had to go like essentially exploring for as far as possible to try and find a village with carrots. I managed to get one, come back into my own town, create the carrot on a stick, use it on a pig, and got the trophy like that. The next trophy I needed to get was an interesting one. I had to hit a skeleton from 50 blocks away, or 50 meters, however the trophy comes up. Essentially what I needed to do was put a name tag on a skeleton, trap it in a little area, mine up 30 blocks, and then basically shoot it from above and get the trophy. There we go, as simple as that. At this point in my conquest for the trophies, I also had enough rails to make the full rail track, so I essentially rode the rail track all the way down to the end and managed to pop the trophy for that one as well. One thing that I was also stunned that I hadn't already done yet was make an iron golem. I had enough iron to create the blocks for it and also pumpkins to make the jack-o'-lantern, so I put that on top of the iron blocks and up popped the trophy. The next trophy I went to get was to deal 9 hearts of damage in a single hit. I decided to do this by basically enchanting a diamond sword, and I got smite 4 I think with it, and then basically decided to create a tier 2 level strength potion, used that on a creeper, hit it with 9 hearts of damage, and instantly got that trophy. The next trophy I tried to get was basically tame 5 wolves in the game in total. I think I did a few of these just off camera, just going around and collecting wolves, but I managed to actually find a few whilst I was out on my travels, and I had quite a lot of bones to feed them, so then I managed to basically get the trophy pretty easily. I did then go and get a few more wolves just because I felt like it, but yeah, that's another trophy out the way. So as you'll remember from earlier on, I managed to find an end portal in the world, but it was broken. After doing a bit of research, I basically realised that there's multiple end portals in the world, so I basically farmed as many ender pearls as I possibly could. I did this by basically getting villagers, I think it was a Fletcher villager, and essentially trading sticks for emeralds, and then getting one other villager type to then trade me ender pearls. I went into the nether to get blaze rods to turn into blaze powder, which then I made ender pearls with, and then essentially doing that, I went on a massive journey to try and find it. I did manage to find the end portal. All we needed now was more end pearls, so that then we could use them on the portal to then fight the ender dragon. But at this point, I felt like we were very close to the final battle. So there we have it. I got the ender pearls that I needed to then make the ender eyes, which I put onto the portal. We jumped into the portal and got the trophy for entering the portal, which is one step closer to one of the hardest trophies in the game. Then essentially all I needed to do was put a pumpkin on my head so that the enderman couldn't see me, and use my sword and my bow to basically kill the ender dragon. Took quite an easy process. I mean, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, but popped the trophy after the end credits rolled, and then as simple as that. Basically, we've got 2 trophies left to get in this game. One of them is to basically play the game for 100 days, and at checking, essentially I am at 63, and to basically throw diamonds at another player, and then we are all done. One thing I did also manage to get afterwards was trading 30 emeralds in total with villagers. Essentially, because I was spawned in a village and my home was in a village, I used as many villagers as possible as resources to try and get this trophy. I randomly actually went up to one of the ones that just appeared with llamas and bought some wood off of him, and basically instantly got the trophy. So I was scrolling through the trophies because I noticed that the count was a bit off, and I've realised that I've got the trophy Staying Frosty. I actually managed to get it on the 27th of August. No idea how I've got that. Here's a screenshot of me getting the trophy, I guess. The next trophy to pop, I kind of had to sit there and wait for 33 hours, and that's passing time. And then finally, the last trophy that I needed from this list was to throw diamonds at another player. I actually got to borrow my friend James's controller to do this, so I appreciate him for that. And then for some reason, like, the trophy did pop, but on this recording it didn't appear. And then I also got the platinum, but that also didn't show up for some reason. And as you can see from this list, we have 100% of the trophies now. There are a couple that didn't feature in this video, which I will show at the end, but we are fully done now with this whole trophy collection. So as you can see on screen, the trophies that didn't feature in this video are the ones that are showing now. I think I may have just got these whilst just randomly playing because they look kind of easy, but there we go. That's all of the trophies for the platinum, a total of 50 trophies, and then one more for the platinum, making it 51. I think in total I played the game for around 33 to 35 hours. If you guys did enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like. I am hoping to do more videos like this in future. Just to give you some context, I actually started recording this video in August and it's now January, so it's taken me 5 months of gameplay. So I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe if you guys are new around here. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.